Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So I spent quite a bit of time discussing how the world might best quarantine themselves from the economic whirlwind Trump is generating. But the way to stop Trump himself has to come from inside America. In this video, as Harvard University takes the mother of all principles stance, followed by MIT I saw, I'd like to discuss both the strengths and the weaknesses I'm seeing in the USA right now. Which one's going to win out? But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So, Harvard University has made a stand. Trump insisted they impose his political will on their governance, which would have eradicated freedoms of expression and rendered the university utterly worthless to philosophical pursuits, which is basically the point of a university. Trump threatened grants worth billions. However, Harvard is a very wealthy university. It will suffer from standing up to Trump, but in terms of what he has so far threatened, it can survive. So it has chosen to take a stand. On its own, it will do nothing to stem the tide of brutal authoritarianism, but if it inspires further acts of defiance, that could be different. So far, for all the reports of protests around America, Trump has actually been successfully cowing both universities and major law firms. Now, I said a few weeks ago, Trump is beginning on the big stuff. Let the people protest. He'll get to them once he has the major forces who can oppose him under control. So in order for him to never get around to dealing with the people, and we all know how that will be achieved, we need the more powerful forces to stand firm. Harvard has set an example for others to follow. MIT seem to be following it, as I've said. But we need groups like the Supreme Court, for example, who have been openly defied by the president to take notice. What will they do now? But as well as strength, there is also frustrating weakness. So on my YouTube feed yesterday, I saw a Daily Show episode, Jon Stewart, in which the thumbnail tagline was, "I did not think he would get this authoritarian this fast." So that's a hell of a statement. Why? Why didn't people think this? Not that it makes any difference that Stewart was caught out. I don't think he wasn't exactly in support of Trump anyway, right? I'm not blaming him. But why was anyone who pays close attention to American politics caught out? See, let's go over what we knew before the election, never mind the inauguration. First, we knew that he was consistently talking about mass deportations. And although I'd have Americans in the chat whenever I talked about it say, "Oh, he's talking about illegal immigrants." Yeah, that's not what he was actually talking about. Second, we knew that he was consistently talking about massive tariffs as a way to reduce income taxes and boost manufacturing in America. Did people not believe that just because massive tariffs wouldn't do those things, that he wouldn't do them? We also knew that Trump was taking great care to deny having anything to do with Project 2025, despite it being known that he was closely associated with the authors. Finally, we knew something else. We knew that Trump had not escaped the long arm of the law by becoming president for the second time. He'd merely hit the pause button. The idea that Trump was just going to talk shit and play golf for 4 years, then leave office and face the legal and financial consequences of losing power forever was ridiculous. Not only did Trump have to fundamentally dismantle much of the Constitution to save his own sorry hide, but he had to do it in very record time. Even a tentative approach would have resulted in a bloodbath at the midterms. He was always going to go very quickly. And the reason why I think it's really important to comment on this is not to wring my hands about how they got it so badly wrong. That doesn't matter in itself. It's not like these guys were saying Trump won't be so bad anyway. It's because these are still Trump's opponents. If the people America needs to oppose Trump were that naive, what makes us think that they're any wiser now? Just because they're wise about this one thing, do we know? Do they see what's happening? Trump is sticking two fingers up at the Supreme Court. The same Supreme Court who maybe should reflect on the fact that it was perhaps not their finest move to last year declare that the president basically commits no crimes by presidential actions. So illegally deport someone to El Salvador. Hey, not a crime apparently. Refuse to bring them back when the highest court in the land orders it. No, not a crime. I'm doing presidential things. Well done to the corrupt justices who, through naked partisanship, single-handedly allowed a Russian agent to abolish democracy in America. Because don't bother waiting to see if elections still happen freely and fairly. I mean, elections have not been free or fair in the USA for a very long time. But once the president does not have to obey the law, even when the courts order them to, there is no democracy. And when the legislative body, which writes those laws, have the power to enforce them, but don't, out of the same craven partisanship, which caused the Supreme Court to neuter themselves, there is no democracy. What there is right now is a head of government who is openly doing whatever he pleases with no regard for any law. Now, it doesn't matter how he came to power. That is not a democratic government. And when I see someone say that they didn't expect Trump to get so authoritarian so fast, I'm thinking to myself, then you missed all the massive red flags. And do you know what? You're still missing them now. I get the impression that these people think American democracy is being weakened. No, it was being weakened. But as soon as Trump ignored that unanimous Supreme Court ruling, indeed lied about it, he said the Supreme Court found in his favour, democracy was at that point abolished completely. Do they not see that? Now, of course, at any moment, parts of it can be fixed. The Supreme Court can kick back. Congress can kick back. But until they do, America is a country being run according to the whims of one man with no regard for the law or constitution. That is textbook dictatorship. And if they don't see it, then I do not think they're going to be effective in challenging it. I'm not having a pop, as I say, at Jon Stewart here. It just so happens to be the latest example I've seen of someone being caught out by what Trump is doing and the speed at which he's doing it. I said on the channel before, I've been exasperated to hear like Republicans off the record saying, oh, they didn't expect this from him. Donors who bankroll Trump and have been burned saying, well, this isn't what they thought they were getting. I've heard liberals and moderate conservatives who never supported Trump but are still surprised by what he's doing. He didn't hide any of it. Okay, granted, he tried to deny his involvement with Project 2025, but his denials were incredibly weak. But everything else, he shouted his intentions from the rooftops. I knew about it, thousands of miles away, taking little more than an interest in American politics. How come those living and breathing it every day were caught off guard? I mean, take the reaction to Trump being recorded candidly about deporting American citizens who were born in America. Homegrowns are next, he said to El Salvador's president. You're going to need to build 5 times as many prisons. You don't have enough. Shocking, and yet not a revelation. He talked about this before the election. Last autumn, when Farage was cozying up to Musk, I said, this was before Trump was even inaugurated, I said on this channel, I could foresee trouble ahead when the mass deportations began in earnest, and Farage would have to insist that he doesn't support that policy in Britain. And I said, this would drive a wedge between Farage and Musk, who would see the Reform UK leader as being too soft. Now, little did I know that that wedge would appear much sooner, because the mass deportations have not yet happened. Right now, Americans are still telling themselves that this is about illegal immigrants, despite the Supreme Court ruling. What about when it's born and bred Americans? What about when it's lots of them? By the time it happens, will Trump have too much control to stop it? Consider everything that Trump has done so far. Then remember, he's not even 3 months in. Trump hasn't just moved quickly, he's continuing to move quickly. And I'm not sure that despite some impressive displays of defiance from some in America, there's any opposing force which has a plan to keep up with Trump's speed. Will Harvard make others sit up and take notice? Or are they just going to be left largely on their own to command the sea into retreat? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.